Have you ever wondered why, among the 72 spirits listed in the ancient grimoires, the name Bune is the one that echoes most loudly in the corridors of the internet and the minds of the desperate? It is no coincidence, nor is it merely a matter of hollow popularity. There is a gravitational seduction in this name, a promise that shines like fool's gold at the bottom of a dark well. The internet, with its infinite forums and groups of instant occultism, has sold you and thousands of others the image of an accessible magic lamp, where you simply draw a sigil on a piece of paper, light a candle, and wait for your bank account to magically fill up while you sleep. It is the commercialization of the sacred and the profane, the transformation of titanic, ancient forces into mere wish delivery apps. But the truth, the one they rarely tell you before you have the circle drawn on your bedroom floor, is that you are not dealing with a fairy godmother of prosperity. You are knocking on the door of an intelligence that comprehends the value of things in a way that the human mind, limited by time and the urgency of debt, cannot even process. Let's call this by its right name, a term that might make your spine freeze, but which is necessary to dispel the fog of illusion: financial necromancy. When we speak of Bune, we are not speaking of the volatile luck that rules gambling or lotteries. We are speaking of an entity described as a great duke, strong and mighty, who holds dominion over the dead and the knowledge to reorganize matter. The wealth that comes through this avenue does not fall from the sky. It is extracted, and every extraction leaves a scar. Think of mining. To pull gold from the earth, you must tear the soil, use explosives, and overturn what has been quiet for millennia. In magic, the process is frighteningly similar. By evoking Bune seeking quick wealth, you are asking for a sudden shift in the tectonic plates of your reality. And often, for gold to appear on the surface, structures you considered solid in your life need to collapse. This is why the concept of financial necromancy is so vital here. It's not just about speaking with the dead. It's about understanding that money, in this sphere, possesses a cold, dense energy, often linked to legacies, inheritances, insurance, or discoveries that are only possible because something or someone ceased to exist or ceased to possess that thing. The pain you feel today, that anxiety tightening your chest when the bills arrive and the balance doesn't cover them, is a very specific vibrational frequency. It is the scent of blood in the water for certain entities. The danger lies not only in the entity itself but in your approach. When you enter the magic circle vibrating scarcity, fear, and urgency, you are not presenting yourself as a sovereign mage, but as wounded prey. And Bune, in his ancient wisdom, does not respond to the plea of a victim in the same way he responds to the command of an adept. Financial necromancy becomes a real danger when you realize that, to fill the void in your pocket, magic may begin to drain other areas of your life to maintain the balance of the exchange. What the internet calls a wealth pact is, in reality, an alignment of frequencies. If you seek shortcuts without understanding the road, you may end up discovering that the shortest path to wealth crosses graveyards, literal or metaphorical. It is fascinating and terrifying to note how the reports repeat themselves. People who perform the ritual hastily without due preparation and do succeed in getting an unexpected influx of money, only to lose double the amount the following week due to a broken car, a sudden health problem, or a family loss. The money came as promised, but at what cost? Bune's gold, when poorly requested, is heavy. It carries the density of the land of the dead. It does not flow like water. It accumulates like dirt over a coffin. And this is where most fail. They look at the sigil, those complex and hypnotic lines, and see dollar signs when they should see a map of a subterranean labyrinth. You are inviting a force that existed before the modern concept of economy was invented. Bune does not care about inflation, interest rates, or your late rent. He cares about eloquence, wisdom, and order. Trying to use him merely as a quick cash machine is like trying to use an ancient sharp sword to spread butter on toast. You will not only fail to use the tool for its real purpose, but you will likely cut yourself badly in the process. The true nature of this myth of easy wealth lives in our inability to deal with time and effort. We want the result without the journey. We want the crown without the war. But in occultism, especially in the Goetia, quick wealth is often a semantic trap. What is quick to an eternal being? A year? A decade? A lifetime? By asking for haste from a duke who watches ages pass like seconds, you may be accelerating processes that should take years to mature, causing the fruit to fall from the tree prematurely, rotten or poisonous. Financial necromancy is the art of moving resources that were stagnant or hidden, and bringing to light what was in the shadow requires a very powerful lantern, your own vital energy. If you do not have enough of your own light, the darkness of the ritual will collect the fuel from another source. And perhaps the most unsettling aspect of all this is the invisibility of the process. There is no thunder, no lightning striking the backyard, just a series of coincidences that begin to align strangely. A phone that rings, an opportunity that appears out of nowhere, forgotten money that shows up. It seems like a miracle, it seems like a blessing. But if you sharpen your senses, if you really pay attention to the air in your house after the ritual, you will notice that the climate has changed. There is a new density, a presence watching from the corner of the room. It is the price of the door you left ajar. The wealth has begun to flow, yes, but something else entered along with it. And it is about this presence, about the true face of the one who holds the seal, that we need to speak now. Because to control the flow, you need to know the source. And the source in this case has 3 heads and a voice that can enchant or destroy. If up to this point you have felt that your view of this ritual is changing, if you felt a shiver of recognition realizing that perhaps you treated ancient forces with levity, I want you to leave a comment right now. Write only, "Gold has weight." This will be our password, the sign that you understood we are not playing at witchcraft, but dealing with severe universal laws. Comment "Gold has weight" and prepare your mind, for what we will unveil next is the real identity of the one whom many call, but few know. Now, erase from your mind the childish image that pop culture and Hollywood movies have sold you about what a demon is. Forget the red being with horns and a pitchfork or the shapeless black smoke that just breaks plates in the kitchen. If you really draw the circle, if the evocation works and if the veils of reality tear before your eyes, what you will see is not a random monster, but a chimera of symbolism so dense and ancient that your rational mind may struggle to process it. We are talking about the 26th spirit listed in the Key of Solomon. We are talking about a duke, and in the infernal hierarchy, titles matter. A duke is not a servant. A duke is an administrator of domains, a general of legions, and an authority that demands protocol, respect, and above all, an understanding of his multifaceted nature. Visualizing Bune is, in itself, an exercise in terror and fascination. The grimoires describe him appearing in the form of a 3-headed dragon. Stop for a second and let that image settle. A reptilian body, covered in scales that shine with an iridescence reminiscent of aged copper, the metal of Venus, the planet that rules his aspects of desire and social connection. But it is the heads that tell the true story of what he can do for you, and essentially what he can do to you. One head is that of a dog, another is that of a griffin, and the third is that of a man. This is not a random aesthetic choice by ancient mages, it is a code. The head of the dog represents instinct, scent, loyalty, and guardianship. The dog is the animal that guides souls in the underworld, the guardian of thresholds. In the pursuit of wealth, Bune's canine aspect is the one that sniffs out opportunity where no one else sees it, the one that pursues the goal tirelessly. The griffin, on the other hand, is a legendary mythological creature known for a single primordial function, guarding treasures. The griffin is the union of the eagle, air, superior intellect, and the lion, earth, brute strength. It represents fierce vigilance over gold. Bune does not just deliver treasure, he teaches you how to protect it, how not to let it slip through your fingers. And finally, the head of man. It is here that the real danger and the greatest gift reside. The human head represents rational intelligence, diplomacy, and consciousness. It is this face that speaks to you. And how does he speak? The texts are unanimous and disturbingly specific. He speaks with a high and comely voice. This is a brutal subversion of expectation. You expect a guttural roar from a 3-headed dragon, but what you receive is a melodious, articulate, almost hypnotic voice. A voice made to convince, to seduce, to negotiate. This brings us to the true power of this duke, something most fortune hunters ignore. Bune grants wealth, yes, but his main attribute is eloquence and wisdom. He does not materialize gold bars on your rug. He alters your mind so that your mouth becomes a source of gold. He gives you the right words to close that impossible contract. The brilliant idea that solves a $1 million problem. The posture that makes others want to give you money. His magic is transforming you into a prosperity magnet through intelligence and communication. But do not be fooled by the soft voice. Remember where he comes from. Bune commands 30 legions of spirits, 30 armies of entities awaiting an order to act, and the darkest detail, the one that makes many experienced mages hesitate before calling him, is his preferred location. The grimoire states clearly, he gathers them together unto their sepulchres. Bune is a chthonic spirit, tied to the earth and what is buried in it. He is a psychopomp, a conductor of souls, or at least an administrator of the shadows that inhabit cemeteries. Why would a spirit of wealth be so intimately linked to graves? Because that is where things end, and it is from the end that new beginnings emerge. It is in the land of the dead that the treasures of the past are buried, both literal and metaphorical. Forgotten inheritances, family secrets worth fortunes, lost knowledge that can revolutionize the present. By evoking Bune, you are inevitably touching the current of death. You are accessing an energy that is cold, stable, and relentless. The wealth that comes from the dead does not have the liveliness of money earned through daily sweat. It has the weight of history, the weight of time. Many report that after working with Bune, they feel a sudden attraction to ancient places, a strange ease in dealing with morbid themes or even dreams where they walk through silent necropolises, talking to people who have departed. This is not a side effect. It is the essence of the entity. He gives you the wisdom of the ancients. He makes you wise, as the text says, and true wisdom often comes from listening to those who have already completed the journey of life. Therefore, when you look at Bune's seal, do not see just a symbol to win the lottery. See the complexity of a duke who is at once a monster, a diplomat, a guardian of treasures, and a lord of cemeteries. He is the bridge between the human desire to have more and the inevitable reality that everything eventually returns to the earth. He can give you the world, but he will demand that you have the eloquence to keep it and the courage to face the visage of death without blinking. Most people who seek this seal have no idea of this depth. They see the shine, but ignore the shadow that casts it. And it is precisely in this ignorance, in this blind and superficial desire, that the trap is set, because Bune responds. Oh, he responds. But he responds to what you are, not just what you ask for. And if you are a pit of despair and greed, what the dragon reflects back to you could be your ruin. Now stop and reflect on your own inner voice. If you could ask only one thing of an entity that knows all the secrets of the dead and the living, would you still ask only for money? Or would you begin to realize that true power lies in the word? If the description of this duke resonated with something deep inside you, if the idea of a high and comely voice coming from a dragon sparked your curiosity, comment the word eloquence below. Let's see how many here seek the gold, and how many seek the key that opens the vault. Let's be brutally honest for a moment. No one wakes up on a sunny morning with their life perfectly in order, a full bank account, and a secure family, and decides, today I'm going to summon a demon. That's not how it works. Magic, and specifically the Goetia, is almost always the last resort, the door we pound on when all others have been slammed in our faces. If you are researching the seal of Bune, if you are watching this video, there is a high chance you are feeling something that corrodes the human soul faster than any acid: financial desperation. I know what it's like. The feeling that the world is shrinking around you. The phone rings and you don't want to answer because you know it's a collection agency. You look at the fridge, at the bills on the table, at the faces of the people who depend on you, and you feel a knot in your throat that doesn't untie even when you sleep. The lack of money, in our society, is not just a logistical problem. It is a wound to one's dignity. It takes your sleep, takes your peace, and worst of all, takes your sense of power over your own life. It is in this power vacuum, in this black hole of anxiety, that the figure of Duke Bune emerges as a seductive lighthouse in the middle of the storm. Why him? Why, among so many spirits that promise treasures, like Mammon, Clonec, or Lucifuge Rofacal, is it Bune who receives the greatest load of attention and supplication? The answer lies in the psychology of the shipwrecked. Bune is seen as the saint of lost causes of the left-hand path. His description in books promising wealth and wisdom directly acts as a balm for the feverish mind of someone who needs money yesterday. There is a collective belief, fed by anonymous and often exaggerated reports on forums, that Bune is the most accessible, the fastest, the most willing to negotiate with beginners. We project onto him the figure of the savior that the material world denied us. The bank denied you the loan, the boss denied you the raise, the market denied you the opportunity. Bune, in the mind of the desperate, is the one who will not deny. But here lies the invisible danger, the psychological trap that turns the mage into a victim. When you go to the magic circle driven purely by panic, you are not operating magic. You are merely screaming for help on a spiritual frequency. And desperation, my friend, has a scent. On the astral plane, fear and urgent greed function like blood in the water for sharks. By seeking Bune like someone seeking a winning lottery ticket, you are inverting the hierarchy. You place yourself on your knees, not in respect, but in submission to your own misery. And ancient entities, intelligences that saw empires rise and turn to dust, do not respect the submission of a beggar. They respect the authority of a king. The psychology of seeking Bune reveals that deep down, what most want is not to work with the entity, but to be rescued by it. We want the Duke to solve the chaos that we created or that life imposed. We want quick wealth because we can no longer stand even a second of the slow and painful reality of scarcity. But it is precisely this haste that blinds. It prevents us from reading the fine print of the contract. It makes us ignore that Bune is a spirit of exchange and order, not charity. The pain that brought you here is legitimate. Poverty hurts. But using that pain as fuel for the ritual is like trying to light a campfire using dynamite. It will generate heat, yes, but it might blow up everything that remains of your structure. Understanding this is the first step out of the victim position. You need to stop looking at Bune's seal as the magic solution for your mistakes or bad luck, and start seeing it as a tool for amplifying your own will. If your will is broken by fear, what the Duke's black mirror will amplify is your own chaos. The emotional connection you seek should not be that of a child asking a strict father for an allowance, but that of a strategist seeking an alliance with a foreign power. The question you should ask yourself is not what can Bune give me, but rather, what do I have within me that is worthy of being potentiated by a Duke? If you have ever felt that you sought magic not for power, but out of sheer desperation of seeing no other way out, know that there is no shame in that, only risk. Acknowledging this state is the beginning of the true wisdom that Bune offers. I want you to look inside now, and if you have the courage to admit that you have been in that dark place where hope seems to have run out, comment the word truth below. Let's clear the ground of illusion before building the temple. Because now that we understand why you seek him, we need to understand what he actually delivers. And I guarantee you, it is very different from what you were promised. Here lies the great disappointment for the majority, and the secret kept under lock and key by the few who truly achieve success. Let's tear the veil of illusion right now. If you think evoking Bune will cause a briefcase of money to materialize at the foot of your bed or lottery numbers to shine in neon on your bedroom wall, you are doomed to failure. The Goetia does not work by violating the laws of physics. Money is physical energy, printed on paper, minted in metal, or recorded in bits on bank servers. For it to reach you, it must come from somewhere, and in the overwhelming majority of times, money comes from the hands of other people. It is here that Bune's real mechanism reveals itself, brilliant and logical to those who have eyes to see. Go back to the sacred text. Go back to the description of the Duke. What does the grimoire say? It says Bune gives riches, yes, but in the same sentence, without commas to separate, it says Bune makes men wise and eloquent. Why would these three things, wealth, wisdom, and eloquence, be in the same package? Because they are the gears, the engine, and the fuel. Bune's magic is not spontaneous materialization. It is the transmutation of your communication capacity. Think with me, what separates you from the wealth you desire? Often, it is a job interview you didn't pass, a client you didn't convince, an investor who didn't believe in your project, or a debt negotiation you lost. Money in the human world flows through conversation, persuasion, diplomacy. Bune, with his high and comely voice, lends you the supernatural charisma needed to open these doors. When the ritual truly works, you don't wake up rich. You wake up with mental clarity, sharp as a razor. Suddenly, you know exactly what to say to that difficult boss. The right words flow from your mouth with a sweetness and authority that leave people around you mesmerized. You become magnetic. This is the true materialization. Bune doesn't throw gold in your lap. He puts gold on your tongue. He turns your voice into the mining tool. Those who report resounding success with this entity generally tell stories about a genius idea I had in the shower and knew how to sell, or a meeting where I felt it wasn't me speaking and I closed the biggest contract of my life. This is eloquence operating. It is the wisdom to know where the money is hidden and the glibness to convince whoever is guarding the treasure to hand it over to you. The problem is that most beginners want the result, the money, without the process. the action. They perform the ritual and lock themselves in their room, waiting for the bank transfer to fall from the sky. But Bune needs a vehicle. If you don't talk to anyone, if you don't leave the house, if you don't negotiate, if you don't create, you are gagging the Duke. You are asking for eloquence to talk to the walls. The wisdom he grants is often the brutal intuition to perceive opportunities others ignore. It is that instinct of, buy this now, or sell that immediately. It is strategic intelligence, cold and calculating, typical of one who governs legions. Therefore, the real mechanism is a two-way street. You offer the structure, your mind and your voice, and he offers the content, influence and strategy. Accepting this requires humility. It requires admitting that the miracle will not happen for you, but through you. And this leads us to a disturbing question. If the money comes through your voice and your mind potentiated by an ancient entity, to what extent are the ideas yours, and to what extent are they his? When you close that $1 million deal using a smooth talk you never had before, who really signed the contract? If you prefer the naked truth to childish fantasy, and if you understand that true magic requires you to get up and act, I want you to leave a comment now. Write, the word is key. Show the algorithm and yourself that you understood that the mouth that utters the spell is the same one that must build the empire. But beware, for not all gold that shines through eloquence comes without a hidden price, and it is about the cost of this shortcut that we need to speak next. Here we enter the territory where fairy tales end and psychological horror movies begin. The promise of quick wealth is the siren song that drags the mage to the bottom. There is a universal principle, a law that not even the dukes of hell can break, called the law of equivalent exchange. In physics, we learn that energy cannot be created, only transformed. In magic, this means that for something to enter your life with overwhelming force and unnatural speed, something of equal value must leave or be displaced to make room. And this is where the monkey's paw comes into action. If you don't know that old story, the summary is brutal. A talisman that grants wishes, but always in a way that makes the wisher bitterly regret having opened their mouth. When you demand haste from an entity like Bune, you are essentially saying, I don't care about the how, I just want the result now. And Bune, being a spirit of supreme efficiency and linked to death, will find the path of least resistance to deliver what you asked for. And what is the fastest, legal, and most liquid way for someone to receive a large sum of money overnight in our world? Life insurance, unexpected inheritances, compensation for severe accidents, or lawsuits resulting from a traumatic firing. I have seen this happen too many times to consider it a coincidence. The beginner draws the seal, burns the incense, and asks, bring me $10,000 by the end of the month. He doesn't specify the source, doesn't ask that it be by the fruit of his labor, doesn't ask for harmony. He asks for the value and the deadline. 2 weeks later, the phone rings. A close relative has passed away, or he suffered a car accident that resulted in the partial loss of movement, but guaranteed the exact compensation he visualized in the candle flame. The money is in the account. The pact was fulfilled. But at what price? Would you have the courage to spend money stained by grief or your own physical pain? Financial necromancy is not just a pretty term. It is the literal reality that, often, for gold to change hands quickly, the hand that held it before needs to grow cold. Real wealth, the kind that sustains itself, is built like a house, brick by brick. It takes time, requires a foundation. When you try to summon a finished skyscraper in a second, the structure collapses on whoever is underneath. The hidden price of quick wealth is often not charged in money, but in peace. It is the constant anxiety that something terrible is about to happen. It is chronic insomnia. It is the feeling that, although your bank account is full, the joy of living has been drained, as if you had traded your vitality for liquidity. Bune delivers what you ask for, and that is the most dangerous part. The responsibility to ask wisely is 100% yours. If you ask like a spoiled child, you will receive the lesson of a strict father. Furthermore, there is the side effect of entropy. If you force reality to give you an immense gain in one area without having built the energetic structure to sustain it, life tends to compensate by taking from another place to maintain balance. Lucky in the game, unlucky in love, gain in career, lose in health. It is destiny's short blanket. The wise mage, the one who truly understands Bune's seal, never asks for fast money. He asks for solid opportunities. He asks for the vision to see the path. He asks for the eloquence to build the empire. He asks to be the gardener who plants the tree, not the lumberjack who cuts it down to get the fruit faster. This blind pursuit of immediacy is what feeds the dark side of the Goetia. It turns a sacred science of contact with the divine and the underworld into spiritual Russian roulette. And the cylinder of that gun is loaded with the bullets of irony of fate. If you do not have the maturity to stipulate the safety clauses of your own request, such as, "May it come in peace and harmony, may it cause no harm to me or mine," you are signing a blank check and handing it to an intelligence that does not operate by human morals, but by the cold logic of execution. I want you to be honest with yourself now. Would you be willing to receive the amount you desire today if the price were a personal tragedy tomorrow? If the answer is a resounding no, then you have already begun to understand the danger we are navigating. To seal this understanding and protect your mind against reckless greed, comment the phrase below, equivalent exchange. By writing this, you firm the commitment to seek prosperity via the path of wisdom and not via the path of pain. And now that you understand the risk of the request, we need to dive even deeper into the nature of the one who answers, Bune's direct connection to the dead, and why this changes everything in the ritual. Now, we need to turn off the lights and look into the darkest corner of the room. If you think Goetia is just a catalog of demons that grant wishes, you miss the most important line of Bune's description, the one that makes experienced mages feel a chill down their spine. The grimoire doesn't just say he gives riches, it says letter for letter. He gathers the spirits together unto their sepulchres. Read it again. Sepulchres. Bune is not a solar spirit, bright and warm. Bune is a chthonic spirit, an entity of the underworld, intimately linked to the energy of death and the rest, or the disturbance, of those who have departed. This is the connection most ignore, and it is exactly here that the source of his power and danger resides. In ancient mythology, Pluto, or Hades, was the god of the underworld, but he was also the god of wealth, Plutus. Why? Because everything precious comes from beneath the earth. Gold, silver, diamonds, oil, everything is extracted from the depths, from the same place where we bury our dead. Wealth and death are next-door neighbors on the spiritual map. Bune is the doorman of this border. When you ask him to bring you prosperity, you are asking him to extract something from the realm of shadows and bring it to the light, and nothing leaves the underworld without carrying the chill of that dimension. That is why rituals with Bune have a very specific thermal signature. Unlike rituals for entities of fire or air, which might warm the environment or leave the energy electric and agitated, Bune's presence usually drops the temperature. Mages report feeling a weight in the air, a gravitational density, as if the atmospheric pressure of the room had changed. Shadows seem to get longer and more solid. It is not an attack, it is his nature. He brings with him the absolute stillness of cemeteries. If you do not have the psychological structure to withstand this density, this contact with entropy, the ritual may begin to drain your vitality. You ask for money, but wake up the next day exhausted, pale, with no will to get out of bed. It is financial necromancy collecting its toll, the exchange of vital energy for material energy. But the necromantic aspect goes beyond physical sensation. Bune has the capacity to access the knowledge of the dead. Think of how many fortunes were lost because the secret of where they were, or how they were built, died with their owners. Think of how much ancestral knowledge your own lineage has lost. Bune can recover this. He can whisper in your ear the wisdom of an ancient banker, the cunning of a deceased merchant, or even guide your intuition to places where treasures, physical or intellectual, were forgotten. He is an archaeologist of the occult. The wealth he offers often has this characteristic of rescue. It is something that was lost, buried, halted, and that he puts into motion again. However, playing necromancer without being one is like trying to operate a nuclear reactor using oven mitts. The barrier between the living and the dead exists for our protection. When you call a duke who governs sepulchres into your house just because you want to pay a bill, you are trivializing a titanic force. You are opening a door to death row and hoping only the mailman walks through it. Often what passes through along with him are astral larvae, psychic fragments, and stagnant energies that feed on the light of the living. That is why cleansing and banishing before and after working with Bune are not optional. They are vital. Without them, your house may start to feel like a mausoleum, cold, sad, and oppressive, even if it is full of new furniture bought with the packed money. True authority over Bune does not come from shouting divine names, but from understanding and respecting death as part of the cycle of wealth. Money is energy in motion. Death is the absolute pause. Bune dominates both. If you can face this duality without trembling, if you can understand that gold is ultimately just cold metal torn from the earth, then you are ready to converse with the Duke. But if the simple mention of cemeteries and spirits causes you dread, perhaps you are knocking on the wrong door. Bune's magic is serious, silent, and profound. I want to know if your sensitivity has already picked this up. Have you ever, even without performing rituals, entered a place and felt the temperature drop sharply? Felt a shiver that had no physical explanation? This is the touch of the ethereal plane grazing the physical. If you have ever felt this chill down the spine, comment exactly that phrase below, chill down the spine. This will tell me that you are sensitive enough to perceive when the atmosphere changes. A crucial skill for anyone who wishes to evoke the Duke. And now that you know we are dealing with the energy of tombs, we need to talk about the fatal mistakes beginners make when trying to navigate this dark sea without a compass. There is a scenario that repeats with alarming frequency and which, for those with eyes to see, is as tragic as watching a child play with a grenade with the pin pulled. Imagine this. An individual finds Bune's seal on Google Images, prints it on a crumpled piece of printer paper, lights some random candle found in a kitchen drawer, and begins to recite the N, Wilk, Milan, Avaj, Bunatasa, with trembling pronunciation, heart racing with fear, and a mind full of doubts. He finishes, blows out the candle, puts the paper in his wallet, and goes to sleep thinking he has just closed a contract with an infernal power. This is the portrait of the fatal error, the trivialization of the sacred and the profane. The greatest mistake of beginners is not lack of faith, it is lack of protocol. They treat Bune's seal as if it were a good luck charm, an occult rabbit's foot, or worse, like a tech support ticket where you open a request and wait for resolution. They forget that the Goetia is a system of ceremonial evocation. The seal is not the entity, the seal is the phone number, and when you call a duke who commands 30 legions and manages the gates of death, you cannot simply stutter or demand things as if you were ordering takeout on an app. The lack of majestic posture is what transforms the operator into prey. The error begins before even striking the match. It begins with the lack of banishing. The space where you live, your bedroom or your living room, is full of astral trash, remnants of arguments, worries, fears, stagnant energies of daily life. If you open a portal in this dirty environment without first cleaning and consecrating it, you are not inviting Bune into a clean temple. You are inviting a king to enter a pigsty. And worse, by opening the portal without a magic circle duly drawn and consecrated, you create a light in the middle of darkness without putting glass in the windows. Bune might hear, but he isn't the only one who sees the light. Astral larvae, obsessing spirits, and parasitic egregores love to feed on the energy of reckless mages who leave the front door wide open. Many believe the magic circle serves to trap the demon and prevent it from attacking you. This is a childish half-truth. The circle serves primarily to contain your energy, to create a microcosm where you are the absolute authority, the god of your own universe in that moment. Without the circle, your will disperses, leaks through the edges. And here we enter the most critical point: spiritual authority. You do not command a Goetic spirit because you are nice, or because you really need it. You command it, or negotiate with it, based on divine authority and unbreakable willpower. The beginner fails because he enters the ritual vibrating need. He begs, "Please, Bune, I need to pay my rent. Please, help me." In the spiritual world, he who begs is below. He who begs is subordinate. Predatory or mocking entities, which often disguise themselves as the entity you called, smell the scent of submission from miles away. The true adept does not ask. He declares intent. He does not wait. He visualizes the result as a consummated fact. The arrogance of thinking one can skip the steps of preparation, fasting, cleansing, and study is what leads to ruin. It is the arrogance of wanting to drive a Formula One car without having gotten a driver's license. Another aspect of this fatal error is the lack of grounding after the ritual. The beginner finishes the evocation and goes straight to watching TV, eating junk food, or sleeping, leaving the portal energetically ajar. He doesn't perform the final banishing, doesn't dismiss the entity with the required formality. Go in peace. The result? The dense energy of the cemetery, Bune's heavy vibration, continues leaking into his reality days after the ritual. The house stays cold, animals get sick, light bulbs burn out, and his mind begins to get cloudy. He thinks the ritual didn't work because the money didn't appear, but the ritual did work. He just forgot to turn off the machine and now the radiation is leaking. And finally, the error of treating the seal as a passive object. Carrying Bune's sigil in your pocket or drawing it on your wrist without having established a real connection, without having charged the symbol with intention and energy, is just carrying a scribble. The paper has no power. Your mind focus through the symbol is what has power. The beginner seeks magic in the object, while the master knows magic is in the mind. Thinking the drawing will do the hard work for you is the recipe for frustration. If you are starting now, understand. Fear is natural, but recklessness is unforgivable. Bune is a strict teacher. If you arrive at his classroom without having done your homework, without respect for hierarchy, and with clothes dirty from spiritual mud, do not expect to leave there with a diploma of wealth. Expect to leave with a lesson in humility that may cost you dearly. Magic does not forgive laziness. If you want to be treated like a king by the universe, you need to carry yourself like one. I want you to do a sincere self-analysis now. Have you ever tried to perform any ritual, spell, or use of sigils in a sloppy, half-assed way, just to see if it worked? If you acknowledge that discipline is the key missing in your practice, comment the word respect below. It is the first step to showing the universe that you have ceased to be a reckless rubbernecker and are becoming a serious student. Because if you do not have respect, the signs that something has gone wrong will not take long to appear, and they are much more disturbing than just an empty bank account. Now, we need to calibrate your senses. Often, the beginner believes that if the pact or evocation goes wrong, the ground will open up, the walls will bleed, and objects will fly around the house like in a cheap horror movie. The reality, unfortunately, is much more subtle, and because of that, much more dangerous. Failure in Goetia is not a bang, it is an erosion. It is a silent process that begins to corrode your reality from the edges, and when you finally notice, you are already too deep to get out alone. How do you know if, instead of establishing a business partnership with a duke, you opened the door to a parasitic infestation, or attracted the entity's wrath through disrespect? The diagnosis is in the details. The first symptom is environmental and almost physical. Remember, we are dealing with Bune, an entity linked to sepulchres. If the ritual was not closed correctly, or if the request was made with boundless greed, the energy of death remains stagnant in your home. You begin to notice that the temperature of your house seems to always be a few degrees below normal, no matter the weather outside. But it isn't a refreshing cold. It is a damp, heavy cold that penetrates the bones. The shadows in the corners of the rooms seem to get denser. You have the constant sensation of being watched by peripheral vision, that quick shape that disappears when you turn your face. Your pets, who are natural radars for the ethereal, begin to avoid the room where the ritual was done or bark and hiss at the void. The house ceases to be a home and starts to have the sterile and silent atmosphere of a funeral chapel. The second sign occurs in the terrain of dreams. Bune communicates through the veil, and when the connection is polluted, your dreams become disturbing. These are not common chase nightmares. They are dreams of earth, mud, open graves, or the claustrophobic sensation of being buried alive. You may dream of deceased relatives appearing not to comfort, but with sad, mute, or distorted faces, or dream of dirty money, rusty coins, bills that crumble to dust when you touch them. These dreams are your subconscious screaming that the energy you brought into your aura is not compatible with life, but with decay. You wake up exhausted, as if you had worked all night carrying stones, a classic vital drainage of someone feeding astral larvae. But the cruelest sign, and the one that confuses people the most, is the curse of the leaking hand. The money comes in. Sometimes the exact amount you asked for comes in. You celebrate, thinking the pact was an absolute success, but days later the car breaks down and the repair costs exactly the amount you won. Or an unexpected fine arises, an urgent dental problem, a pipe bursts and floods the kitchen. Money comes in one hand and goes out the other, taking with it a little more than it brought. This happens because the energy generated was chaotic. You attracted the resource, but didn't have the authority to keep it or purify it. It is the fool's gold of occultism. It shines but has no real value because it doesn't stay in your hand. It burns. And finally, there is the change in your own personality. This is the sign of obsession. You become irritable, cold, calculating in an inhumane way. Bune's eloquence manifests as manipulation and lies. You begin to see people around you merely as numbers, as stepping stones or obstacles to your profit. Your empathy dries up. The obsession with money becomes the sole focus of your mind. to the point where you cannot speak or think of anything else. You think you are focused on success, but in truth, you are being consumed by the shadow of avarice that the entity projects. You lost control of the vehicle and are now just a passenger in the back seat of your own life, while a ravenous force drives at high speed. Identifying these signs early is the difference between a passing scare and complete ruin. Do not ignore what the environment and your body are telling you. Magic should expand life, not contract it. If you feel your house has become smaller, darker, and sadder after you tried seeking this quick wealth, the diagnosis is clear. The pact was not sealed, it was infected. I want you to look around now at the environment where you are. Breathe deep and feel the weight of the air. If you have already gone through this, if you have ever felt that the money that came by magic had something wrong with it, or if the house became unbearable after a ritual, I ask you to leave an honest comment below. Write only, dead weight. Let's identify how many here carried this burden without knowing its name. And more importantly, if you identified these signs, do not panic now. There is a way to correct the course, an alternative to access Bune's wisdom without becoming a hostage of his shadow, and it is this safety key that we will deliver next. Facing all this abyss, all the warnings about cemeteries, coldness, and losses, you might be thinking that the only sensible solution is to burn the paper with the seal, throw the ashes in running water, and never pronounce the name Bune again. But that would be a reaction based on fear, and fear is as paralyzing as greed. Bune is not an evil spirit in the childish sense of the word. He is a force of nature, a high-voltage electric current. The problem was never the electricity, but the fact that you tried to connect this current using bare wires and wet hands. There is indeed a safe, honorable, and extremely powerful way to work with this Duke. There is a path where you do not hand over your peace in exchange for coins, but where you build a solid empire. This is the path of wisdom. The great turning of the key happens when you stop acting like a spiritual beggar and start carrying yourself like a sovereign in training. The beggar asks for the fish. He wants the ready money, the final result, the cosmic handout to solve today's hunger. The sovereign asks for the net, the boat, and the map of the tides. The correct alternative to working with Bune is to stop asking for wealth and start asking for the tools that generate wealth. Remember the heads of the dragon, eloquence and wisdom. This is where the real gold is hidden. Instead of lighting the candle and saying, Bune, bring me $10,000 by Friday, try an approach that respects the entity's intelligence and your own capacity. Say, Duke Bune, grant me the eloquence necessary to convince my clients. Give me the wisdom to see the opportunities I am ignoring. May your voice flow through my throat and open the doors that are locked. Do you perceive the brutal difference? In the first case, you are passive and dependent. In the second, you are active and asking for an upgrade to your own operating system. When you ask for eloquence, you are asking for a power that no one can take from you. Money can be stolen, spent, or lost, but the ability to persuade, to charm, and to negotiate is an eternal asset. Bune loves this type of request. As a spirit of high and comely voice, he takes pleasure in teaching the art of the word. Mages who follow this route report that, after the ritual, they feel frightening mental clarity. Shyness disappears. Imposter syndrome evaporates. They enter meetings and dominate the room. They write and people feel the urge to buy. The money that comes as a consequence of this new ability is clean, it is safe, and most importantly, it is replicable. You don't stay dependent on luck. You become the source of your own prosperity. Furthermore, asking Bune for wisdom is accessing that necromantic archive we spoke of, but safely. It is asking to understand market cycles, to perceive when it is time to plant and when it is time to harvest. It is that cold intuition that says, don't sign this contract, something is wrong, or invest here, even if no one is looking. This wisdom protects you from the traps of greed. It gives you the patience of the dead who know that time is irrelevant in the face of eternity, allowing you to build solid wealth, brick by brick, without the feverish anxiety that attracts misfortunes. This approach changes the polarity of the ritual. You stop vibrating in scarcity, I need this or else I'll die, and start vibrating in expansion, I want to evolve my capabilities to conquer the world. Entities respect those who seek evolution. The price of the exchange ceases to be your vitality and becomes your effort, your dedication to applying what was taught. Bune ceases to be the loan shark who charges interest on your soul and becomes the strict mentor who demands excellence. Is it a longer path? Yes. You won't get rich the next morning, But a year from now, you will be an unrecognizable person, with a bank account that reflects the size of your new mind, not the size of your momentary desperation. The true secret of Bune's seal is not using magic to escape reality, but using magic to dominate reality. It is understanding that true financial necromancy is not digging up gold from tombs, but digging up the potential that was dead inside you. It is reviving your own will to win. If you feel you are ready to stop begging the universe for handouts and start assuming command of your own voice and destiny, I want you to seal this commitment now. Leave a comment below with the phrase, King's Mind. Show that you understood that true magic begins inside your head before manifesting in your pocket. And now that you have the master key, we need to close this cycle with a final verdict, a last reflection that will tie up all the loose ends and prepare you for what comes next. We have reached the end of the descent, and now you stand before the crypt's exit door. Look at your hands. What do you carry? Real understanding or the same blind greed with which you entered? The final verdict on the seal of Bune is a sentence few have the courage to pronounce, but which is the only truth capable of saving your skin. Magic does not fix incompetence. It is a magnifying glass, a power amplifier. If you are a total zero in material life, if you have no will to work, to study, to negotiate, or to create, and try to use the Goetia to multiply your results, remember basic math. Any number multiplied by 0 remains 0. Bune is not a substitute for your lack of agency. He is the partner for your structured ambition. The phrase that must be branded in iron and fire on your mind is this: if you are not capable of generating wealth without a demon, you will never be capable of keeping it with a demon. Money that comes without backing, without the mental structure to hold it, is volatile as ether. It evaporates, and when it goes, it will take your sanity with it, leaving only the echo of that soft voice mocking your failure in the dark of your room. Financial necromancy teaches us above all about impermanence. The dead whom Bune governs know something that we, the living, forget in the rush for bills. All gold eventually returns to the earth. All empires turn to ruins. This perspective should not depress you, but liberate you. When you understand that wealth is a temporary game, you stop playing it with the desperation of a drowning man and start playing it with the coolness of a chess master. It is this detachment, this mental sovereignty, that attracts the Duke's respect. He hands the gold to those who do not kneel before the gold. So, before scratching the paper, before chanting the mantra, look at yourself in the mirror. Ask yourself if your voice is ready to command, if your mind is sharp to perceive opportunities, and if your spirit is dense enough not to be dragged by the current of the dead. The true ritual does not begin when you light the candle. It begins when you decide you no longer accept mediocrity, with or without magic. The seal is merely the signature on the contract you have already signed with yourself. But pay attention. Even if your mind is ready, even if your intention is pure and your will is iron, the spiritual environment is hostile territory. You now know who Bune is and how he operates. But knowing who the lion is does not prevent him from devouring you if you enter the cage without protection. Courage without technique is just suicide. There is a safety protocol, a spiritual armor that every mage must wear before stepping into the metaphorical cemetery of the Goetia. Without the correct banishing, without the shielding of your aura, all this wisdom we discussed can be drained by parasites disguised as kings. You don't want to build a castle only to see it invaded on the first night. Therefore, your next step is not to draw Bune's seal. Your next step is to learn to lock the doors of your reality so that only what you invited can enter. But this is a science apart, a defense secret that separates the living from the living dead. If you want to survive the summoning, you need to see the next video. Until then, keep your mouth closed and your mind open. It is no coincidence that you stayed until the last second. Most gave up halfway, scared by the truth about the dead or bored because I didn't promise an easy miracle. But you stayed. This proves you have the fiber necessary to walk in these shadows without being swallowed by them. But do not walk alone. Subscribe to the channel now. Here, we do not play at magic. We dissect reality. Join the order of those who seek deep knowledge and activate the bell so you don't miss the keys we are yet to deliver. Knowledge demands exchange. Leave your like as a symbolic payment for this revelation, balancing the scale between who teaches and who learns, and to materialize your will, to declare to the universe and yourself that you have abandoned the posture of a victim and assumed the throne of your own life. Go to the comments and write, "I am the master," not the servant, not the beggar, not the desperate one, the master. Now the final warning. Courage without defense is dangerous. The video appearing on your screen now teaches exactly how to armor your soul and protect your house before opening any portal. It is the only thing that prevents the predator from entering along with the guest. Do not initiate anything without seeing this. Click now. The ritual continues there.